This is Hot Mic.
Hot Mic.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Hour 2 of Hot Mic, ready to rock and roll here on this Tuesday morning. Tim Bergstrasser, Dragon men's basketball coach, join us about a half hour as we get ready for the NSIC tournament. Begins tomorrow. Dragons will play their opener on Sunday. We have reached the final week of the EDC basketball season. Feels like I just started paying attention and we're ready for the final week. The EDC tournament begins a week from tonight. Boy, we got a huge one on tap here. The top two teams are set to face each other in a biggie between Horace and Davies. It's our pleasure to welcome back to the show Hawks boys basketball head coach Kyle Cummings, apparently from a tropical location. That is a A-plus background.
Flying in just for the game tonight, so.
You are a big timer. You can do that. It's great to see you. Thanks for the time. Here we go, man. It's late February, getting ready for tournament play. Is this a well-timed game on the schedule to have this kind of opponent to get ready for the EDC tournament?
You know, Dom, they locked in the regular season, and I wish it meant a little bit more. You know, like we're still playing to win. We're going out there. We're going to try to play our best brand of basketball, and it's well-timed, yeah, for sure. And that's the thing is our hope is that we get a rematch with them, you know, in 10 days from now. That's kind of the hope, is that we'll get to see them 3 times in about 2 weeks. So that's kind of our hope.
Tell me about the mentality going into this, knowing full well, hey, we want to still be playing our best ball. You had a big win over Red River on Friday to keep that momentum going to get ready for next week.
You know, playing our best ball, absolutely. Red River's a really good team. They were the 2 seed, and we overtook them with that win. We had to win by 4 or more is kind of what we needed. And, you know, there were some glimpses of some dang good basketball that we were playing. You know, there was a point in the first half where just our sets, the execution on offense was looking really good. Our defensive stops, we held them to 31 points in the first half. Like, we were clicking at all cylinders, and that was a lot of fun. And then even a stretch in the second half, you know, Evanson gets a big dunk and then the crowd's into it. And we were playing our best basketball. There was definitely glimpses of it. And then I think there was about 90 seconds left and we're up 20. And then Red River comes down and they have a big and one, a couple threes. You know, we had the chance to close out the game, and it ended up being about a 13-point win. I think 93-80 is what it turned out to be. But we had the chance to kind of put them away, and so I was disappointed that we didn't close out that game. So we need to play the last 2 minutes just like we do the first couple minutes coming out of the game too.
This is still, I would say, is it new territory, Kyle, to have this kind of expectations, be this high up in the conference standings, and what you want to achieve? This is still new territory for your basketball team, right?
Absolutely. And so, you know, coming into the season, I want to say we were under the radar. I was hoping that we were going to be a well-kept secret. And then pretty soon then we're winning some games, some that maybe we shouldn't. And then we're winning games that we should. And that was kind of the transition. And so once you have games you should win, that was kind of the expectations, where we are still young and we have a lot to learn. And we're learning a lot from these games, which is nice. And so that's the thing, is that the sky's the limit for these guys for sure. And we, you know, like you mentioned the question before, playing our best basketball, we're almost there. And so if we can kind of keep that going, then we'll be exactly where we're supposed to be, whether that's, you know, going to state or not. And that's just kind of how it's supposed to fall, is at the end of the day, did we play our best, try our best? So
the Davies team goes without saying they're good, but what about them, Kyle, do we not pay attention to? We see what Claybo does, but what do you focus on as a coach? Say, boy, this is an underspoken part about their team.
Can I talk about the coaching?
Or just how they play? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's the thing, is that they have some guys that they really know their roles, and they don't play outside of themselves. And, you know, Claybo, you know, he's the straw that stirs the drink and everything. But that's just the thing, is that Coach Manson puts everybody in spots to be successful. And so, you know, I love my wife, and she watches basketball, and she thinks that everything that we do out there is just random and it's lucky. And, you know, that's the thing, is that, you know, if you know what's going on, you know how good of a job he does, both offensively and defensively. And so, you know, they've got some dudes, and they have some dudes that do what they do really well. So that's the thing, is it's a collective. Like I said, Mason makes them go, but they have some really good players over there too.
Seeing Mason go and break the record, I'm probably of the mindset it'll last for a bit. The level of talent the way it is, how long in your mind does that record last? I don't know if that's a permanent one. What do you think?
How old's his younger brother?
That's a good point. Yep.
I know that there's another Claybo coming up,
Yep.
and so that's the thing is that however far away he is in between, so I'm sure that he's gonna try and get his fair shot at it as well.
Well, the thing is, like when AJ Jacobson broke it, I remember that. Like, okay, that's gonna last. And then Anand Moody comes up, and it's 4 years later, and he broke it. I'm all right. When Moody got it, that's a pretty high number. And here we are. What is it? 8 years later, and the Double A record, Class A record is gone again. It's just to me. My question, I guess, to you is that shows the level of talent that we in the state are producing here over the last decade, and it's only going to get better.
Yes, that's the thing is that people are starting to specialize at a lot younger age. I remember, a couple of years ago we were talking about a young 7th grade girl by the name of Lake and Donnelly,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is that I don't want to talk about specializing, but just kids are more skilled now than they've ever been. Kids are more athletic now than they've ever been, and that's the thing is that pretty soon it's going to be almost every other year. I think that these records are going to get broken.
Mm.
There might be a time too, just where the physicality where I think, Mason, he was playing since
Yep.
his 8th grade year. And so that doesn't happen very often in the EDC, let alone in North Dakota, let alone in the US. And so that's the thing is that I don't know if we'll see another 8th grader getting many varsity minutes anytime soon.
Since the last time you and I spoke, your standout player received an offer to play basketball at North Dakota State and Carter Evanson. How has life changed for him on and off the court since that happened last month?
Since that has happened, there's been a lot of things that have happened for our team.
Yep.
We are starting to win some games, but at the same time, he became the first 1,000-point scorer in school history, or at least on the boys' side, excuse me. And so that was like another weight lifted off his shoulder kind of thing. And so I feel that he's had a lot of pressure put on him since then. And that's the thing is we are looking forward to these EDC matchups coming up at the Shack just because he starts to get that overrated chant and stuff from opposing fan sections. And so he's handled it with grace and he's a competitor. And I think that fuels him. And so I wouldn't say much has changed. He still stays true to who he is and kind of what we want him to do. And he's, you know, I'd say that this is, I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud that that offer came about. And so Coach Richmond is a man that I hold to such high regard to. And so I think that that would be an awesome place if he could end up going there. But, it's ultimately his decision when it comes down to it.
Kyle, I guess you see it up close. Is the sky the limit? And when I say that, what's the ceiling in your mind for him for the level of player that he could potentially be?
You know, he keeps surprising me, and so I honestly don't know. I
Yeah.
think that the Summit League is a great fit, but the JUCO guys getting a year back now, I think that that dictates some things where um, Rick Pitino just talked about, he's not recruiting any high
I
school
saw
kids this
that.
year.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so, I think for him, just based on the time and place where he's playing, I would love to say Summit League is a great fit. I think that he could maybe jump a league higher, maybe a Missouri Valley, something like that, because he has grown to 6'3". He's getting more athletic by the day.
Mm.
His shooting ability, I think that that's the thing that ultimately gets you on the floor is if you can defend and if you can knock down shots. And so he can do both of those things. And so I don't want to put a ceiling on him or a cap like that, but he reminds me a lot of, well, you saw him play a couple of years ago, but Zach Kraft.
Yep.
I've said that they're kind of comparable in just their position wise and their size. And now, he's shot up a couple more inches than Zach, and he's a little more athletic than Zach was. But Zach is also playing at UND right now,
Yep.
and so very proud of him for that. And so I think that, that's kind of a comparable path to take. So
I've not asked you about this for people that follow your Twitter account, the Horace Boys Basketball Twitter account. After each game, you give out a belt. Can you give us the lowdown on the Eat belt and how that came about and what goes into winning that after each game?
I can't take all the credit for it. I've seen a couple other coaches do it. Coach Winchesky, another guy that I really look up to out west in Minot, he has their grit belt. And so it's kind of based on a gritty performance that they have, guys that do the dirty work. Coach Cressip, who is formerly at Perham, he's got like their X Factor belts
Mm.
kind of thing, which is really cool. So it's not my idea. I stole it. And that's the thing is that, beg, borrow, steal, you got to do what you can. And maybe they took it from somebody else too. Who knows? But ours is the EAT belt. And so our 3 core values that we talk about are effort, attitude, and teamwork. And so, the effort and the attitude, you can always control those 2 things. And so those are the things that really we look at as coaches, who deserves this belt. It's not always the guy that leads us in scoring or anything like that. It's usually the guy that gets on the floor, the guy that leads us in rebounds or tipping and blocking shots. And, we have given it to some guys that have just been, really good teammates too, where um, it's really, I shouldn't say easy, but when you're in the game, you can really impact the game. And that's the thing is we give it to a bench guy a lot of the times too,
Nice.
because
Yep.
tough to come off the bench. And we've given it to the entire bench or the entire team, like this last week on Friday when we beat Red River. That was a team win and we couldn't just pick one guy. So we gave it to the whole team that week.
Who votes on this? Is it you or the assistants? Who determines that?
Usually it's the assistant
Yeah.
coaches that I let decide. I got a lot of other things going on in my head. And so they have different eyes than I do as well too. So
That's really neat. That's a cool part of that. And I imagine it's a pretty big bonding part for your program as well.
oh yeah, after we pass it out at the end of each game, there's usually a round of applause. We let that guy break it down in the locker room afterwards. And a couple times it's been forgotten on road trips. It's been forgotten at home, or whether that's on purpose or not. Some guys get to keep it longer than others. We haven't had a back-to-back winner yet, though. So
Okay.
we're looking forward to the first guy that goes back-to-back with it.
So who wins
Um,
it is responsible for bringing it to the gym the next time?
Yes, they get to bring it home with them and everything, and so after home games or even after away games, but they're walking out with it across their chest or buttoned up, and so they're kinda like peacocks showing off their feathers, that's for sure.
Last thing before I let you go, because all the attention's on Carter, I got to ask you about Brady Westfall is going to play in the NSIC, which is, how good a league that is. To have these kind of players, especially for Brady to step up, and how early did you see the development for him that he can be a Division II player?
We mentioned earlier, it's the things that get you on the floor are hitting shots and defending, and I think that that's what's gonna get him on the floor at UMC as well.
Yeah.
He's a guy that, when he's hot, and, Carter, Aiden Green, a sophomore for us, they do a really good job of finding him in his spots, and once he gets one going, he might hit 2 or 3 in a row, and he's just improved a lot on the defensive end. He's just done a really good job of the team defense too, just kind of the help side. He's in the right spots, at the right time, and so that's the thing is that he's definitely got to work really hard to get on the floor out there, but he's going to give himself a shot just because of how hard he works and because of his natural shooting ability.
I really appreciate the time. You can go back to your tropical location, and good luck tonight, and I'll see you next week at the Shack, okay?
Appreciate it, Dom. Thanks for all you do.
Good to see you, bud. Kyle Cummings, head coach of the Horace boys. Hawks and Davies coming up tonight. Earlier start time, 6 o'clock for that one. And as Kyle mentioned, it would not surprise me if this is round 2 of 3 between these two teams, with an EDC championship game potentially being round 3. Red River's going to be heard from. Top half of the EDC awfully good. We know the teams out west. Minot's having a heck of a year. Bismarck really. I mean, there's EDC and the WDA are always dynamite. But when we get to the AA tournament, which is held this year at the Shack as well, Horace has not been to state, and they got some. You saw the highlight reel of them beating Red River on Friday. They got some dudes, and tonight's game should be a dandy coming up on the south side of town. We're due for a break. We come back, got a couple emails, catch up on a couple other things we haven't hit yet. We're going to get to that as we roll on a Tuesday morning edition of Hot Mic. We're back right after this.